Welcome to Lunch Break Wisdom, short ideas from the world's most influential books, designed for a quiet break between work, a commute home, or a moment to think more clearly. Today's episode explores one of the most powerful and challenging books ever written on faith and integrity, The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Unlike many books written from the comfort of hindsight, Bonhoeffer's ideas were forged in extraordinary circumstances. He lived in Germany during the rise of Nazi rule. He witnessed how fear, nationalism, conformity, and the desire for self-preservation could gradually erode moral courage. He saw religious institutions compromise their principles to maintain comfort and security. Eventually, Bonhoeffer joined resistance efforts against the Nazi regime and was later executed in a concentration camp just weeks before the end of the Second World War. This context matters because the cost of discipleship is not theoretical. It asks one uncomfortable question: what happens when our values demand sacrifice? The central idea of the book revolves around the distinction Bonhoeffer makes between cheap grace and costly grace. Cheap grace, he argues, is grace without transformation. Forgiveness without repentance. Belief without action. Religion without responsibility. It offers comfort without challenge. It allows people to claim noble ideals while avoiding the personal consequences of living them out. Costly grace, by contrast, changes people. It requires honesty, humility, commitment. It asks something of us. Even for those outside religious traditions, this distinction remains deeply relevant. Most people admire integrity. Few enjoy paying its price. It is easy to advocate honesty when dishonesty benefits others. Harder when truth-telling threatens our own reputation. It is easy to praise courage in retrospect. Harder when courage risks comfort, status, or belonging. Bonhoeffer invites readers to examine the gap between admiration and action. The book also explores the danger of self-deception. Human beings possess remarkable abilities to rationalize compromise. People rarely wake up intending to abandon their values. Instead, small justifications accumulate. This isn't a big deal. Everyone else is doing it. Now isn't the right time. Over time, principles weaken. Bonhoeffer observed this process unfolding nationally, but it occurs personally as well. In workplaces, relationships, communities, the lesson is sobering. Major moral failures often begin with minor concessions. Another powerful theme concerns the relationship between belief and behavior. Bonhoeffer challenges the notion that convictions can remain purely internal. If beliefs never influence actions, priorities, or relationships, their significance becomes questionable. Again, this principle extends beyond religion. People who value family organize their schedules differently. People committed to health make different choices. People who prioritize integrity behave differently under pressure. Values inevitably shape conduct. The question becomes, do my actions reflect what I claim to believe? The book also addresses the cost of belonging. Human beings naturally seek acceptance. Social approval feels rewarding. Rejection feels threatening. Yet, Bonhoeffer argues that authentic conviction sometimes requires standing apart from prevailing norms. This is difficult. People fear criticism, isolation, misunderstanding. History repeatedly demonstrates that meaningful change often begins with individuals willing to dissent respectfully but courageously. Scientists challenging assumptions, activists confronting injustice, employees exposing misconduct, parents resisting unhealthy cultural pressures. Belonging matters. But integrity matters too. Another recurring theme is simplicity. Bonhoeffer emphasizes that spiritual life need not become unnecessarily complicated. Love your neighbor, serve others, practice humility, forgive generously, act justly. The challenge often lies not in understanding these principles, but in implementing them consistently. Many people seek increasingly sophisticated solutions while neglecting foundational habits. Listen carefully, speak truthfully, keep promises, offer compassion. Small acts of faithfulness shape character over time. The book also explores the relationship between freedom and obedience. Modern societies frequently equate freedom with unlimited choice. Bonhoeffer proposes another perspective. Choices aligned with truth expand flourishing. Choices disconnected from values can diminish it. This concept appears across numerous traditions. Discipline strengthens musicianship. Training enhances athletic performance. Commitment deepens relationships. Freedom without direction risks fragmentation. Purposeful constraint often creates greater possibilities. Another profound lesson concerns community. Bonhoeffer rejected hyper-individualistic spirituality. People require one another, encouragement, accountability, support, correction. Growth rarely occurs in isolation. The communities people inhabit influence aspirations, habits, and resilience. This insight remains highly relevant. Loneliness continues to rise despite increased digital connectivity. People benefit from relationships grounded in honesty and shared purpose. The book also emphasizes humility. Bonhoeffer warns against self-righteousness. Conviction should not produce arrogance. People committed to justice remain vulnerable to pride. Those seeking truth remain susceptible to certainty. Humility creates space for compassion, listening, learning, recognizing one's own limitations. Perhaps one of the book's most challenging themes involves suffering. Bonhoeffer does not glorify suffering, nor does he suggest people should seek hardship unnecessarily. Rather, he acknowledges that meaningful commitments sometimes entail sacrifice. Parents sacrifice convenience for children. Healthcare workers endure emotional burdens. Teachers invest energy without immediate recognition. Leaders make unpopular decisions. Love often costs something. The willingness to accept those costs reflects the depth of commitment. Another major idea involves courage. Courage does not eliminate fear. Bonhoeffer himself undoubtedly experienced fear. Instead, courage involves acting according to principle despite fear. Modern culture frequently celebrates confidence, yet confidence fluctuates. Courage emerges through practice. Small acts of integrity strengthen moral muscles. Speaking honestly during difficult conversations. Admitting mistakes. Defending vulnerable individuals. Resisting peer pressure. These moments prepare people for larger tests of character. The book also examines the temptation of comfort. Comfort itself is not inherently problematic. Rest matters. Security matters. However, when comfort becomes the highest priority, people may avoid necessary risks. Difficult conversations remain unspoken. Injustices persist unchallenged. Potential remains unrealized. Bonhoeffer encourages readers to ask, what am I unwilling to sacrifice? Because the answer often reveals what ultimately governs behavior. Toward the end of the book, Bonhoeffer emphasizes joy. This may surprise some readers. The book is challenging, demanding, yet joy emerges repeatedly, not superficial happiness dependent upon circumstances, but meaning derived from alignment. People often experience deep satisfaction when actions reflect convictions. Integrity generates coherence. Inner conflict diminishes. Purpose strengthens resilience. Ultimately, the cost of discipleship asks readers to reconsider what commitment means. Whether one approaches it religiously or philosophically, its central challenge remains compelling. What values deserve loyalty? What principles shape decisions? What costs are worth paying? Because every life reflects commitments, the question is not whether sacrifice will occur, it is what we choose to sacrifice for: career advancement, financial security, family, justice, truth, service. The deepest forms of fulfillment often emerge not through avoiding cost altogether, but through investing ourselves in pursuits worthy of it. Perhaps the greatest lesson is this: character reveals itself most clearly when convenience and conviction diverge, when doing the right thing becomes difficult, when integrity requires courage, when compassion demands effort. These moments define people, not because perfection becomes possible, but because authenticity becomes visible. Bonhoeffer's life reminds readers that ordinary individuals can display extraordinary courage, not through fearlessness, but through faithfulness. One decision, one conversation, one act of integrity at a time. And in a world increasingly tempted by shortcuts and superficial commitments, perhaps the invitation toward costly conviction remains as relevant as ever. In summary, key concepts from the book, The Cost of Discipleship. 1. Cheap grace versus costly grace. Comfort without transformation versus commitment with consequence. 2. Integrity requires action. Beliefs should influence behavior. 3. Small compromises matter. Major failures often begin incrementally. 4. Courage despite fear. Moral action occurs amidst uncertainty. 5. Community supports growth. People flourish together. 6. Comfort has limits. Meaning sometimes requires sacrifice. 7. Joy through alignment. Fulfillment emerges when values and actions converge. Everyday takeaways for you. Identify areas where convenience undermines convictions. Practice small acts of courage regularly. Seek communities that encourage integrity. Recognize that meaningful commitments often involve sacrifice. Remain humble even when pursuing important causes. Let actions increasingly reflect deeply held values. Have you ever faced a situation where doing the right thing came at a personal cost? Share your reflections below and suggest future books for Lunch Break Wisdom. Please subscribe and comment.